Hello students, welcome to LaExcellence. Welcome to our 24th weekly magazine where we'll be focusing from 6th August to 12th August 2017. So quickly let's see what are the important issues in this week. The essay for the week is actually with respect to building New India by 2022, where we speak about opportunities and challenges that are actually present if we have to build New India. The Prime Minister's vision about building New India by 2022 and what all needs to be considered for a new India has to be given here. And what are the opportunities available and what are the problems our country faces. Here you can talk from economic to cultural, social issues. All this can be taken up and discussed in detail. The next important issue that we need to observe here is actually with respect to groundwater. Most of the measures taken by the government is with respect to surface water. Whether it is Namami Gange, Namami Brahmaputre, all these are aimed at surface water, but you should be aware that there is more amount of groundwater than surface water, and more number of farmers are actually dependent upon the groundwater rather than the surface water. Given this particular scenario where more number of farmers are actually dependent on groundwater, and depletion of groundwater is a major cause of concern, and contamination of groundwater is another major concern in this entire region. So, giving this particular context where we have to look at the problems associated with groundwater, initially the article tries to talk about what has happened historically. Initially, when Britishers had given permission to go for drilling, and even Indian government when it gave permission for the individual farmers to use groundwater available in their own farmlands, the farmers initially believed, or even now they believe, that these are their own properties and they have rights only to use, but they don't have the right to preserve. So the focus of the farmers is to own this particular groundwater as theirs, and they use it excessively without actually being helpful to other farmers. If you talk to farmers with respect to groundwater, they actually say that big farmers, they put more bores and with pumps and all, they try to take as much water as possible, and they go for water consuming crops in these regions, which is a cause of concern in the entire India. So to avoid all this, the legal measures are always required. Unfortunately, till now there is no such legal measures to prevent the misuse of groundwater. Recently the government has come up with a bill, so let us see what are the important highlights of the bill. The bill proposes a new regulatory framework which recognizes the unitary nature of groundwater pool and the need for decentralized control and the necessity to protect water at the aquifer level. So here we are talking about protecting the water at the aquifer level, where actually the water enters into the ground. It recognizes water as a public trust and as a fundamental right. So after right to privacy, right to water can be seen as a fundamental right. The bill also builds on the decentralization mandate and seeks to give regulatory control over groundwater resources to local bodies. One of the major argument is that these groundwater usages are either at the state level or central level, but not at the village level, which actually plays a very important role in preserving it. So preservation and also right to use the groundwater should be actually transferred to the local bodies. The proposed new regime will benefit the resource through the introduction of groundwater security plans, and most importantly the local participation. And this will also serve as a mandate to use groundwater wisely. And when I say wisely, I am talking about sustainable usage. That is, it should be beneficial for this generation also, and it should be beneficial for next generations as well. In India, when we talk about the judiciary, there is little bit of independence when we talk about the Supreme Court and High Court. But unfortunately, the lower judiciary is completely under the control of high courts. And the Supreme Court is actually proposing to have all India judicial services, which tries to recruit people which will have and which will set some standards for judges at the subordinate level. Unfortunately, 9 high courts have opposed all India judicial service, and they want these services to be still under the control of high courts. So this is what it tries to say. It is more about independence versus control. So you never know until and unless the issue is solved and government comes up with a proper regulation. This issue is not very important, but try to understand that here we are talking about all India judicial service. The next issue that we need to consider is with respect to Chabahar port in Iran. As you're all aware, in 2016, Prime Minister Modi's visit to Iran had helped us to get access to the only port of Iran in Arabian Sea, that is Chabahar port. When we are talking about this particular port, you should be aware that this port in Iran helps India to reach to Afghan border, and from there we can actually enter into Afghanistan. Pakistan do not want India to be present in Afghanistan, so Pakistan is not allowing its territory to be used by Indian vehicles to go to Afghanistan. So because of this, India had asked Iran to give access to the Chabahar port. So India from Mumbai, it can go to Chabahar port, and from there it can enter till Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, India has constructed Zaranj to Delaram highway just to ensure that this highway will go and connect the Garland highway of Afghanistan. And once if we can connect to this, then free transportation and all the 4 major cities of Afghanistan will be connected, and India can export and import goods from this landlocked country. It is very important for India to have good economic relations with Afghanistan, and most importantly, India has to help Afghanistan come out of the influence of Pakistan. The reason for this is Pakistan, as it has geographic advantage, where Afghanistan, if it has to get access to Arabian Sea, then the only country it can give access to the sea is Pakistan. So Afghanistan is dependent on Pakistan in one way or the other way. But India doesn't want Afghanistan to be too much dependent on Pakistan. So India is willing to help Afghanistan to find an alternative route to come to Iran. There it can actually come to Mumbai, and from Mumbai we can actually sell Afghan product. Then we should also try to understand here one important aspect. Iran is important for India not only from Afghanistan point of view, but it is important for India from reaching to Central Asian countries as well. That is, Iran will help India to reach to mineral reserves rich Central Asia and also Russia. India is planning to connect to Russia through North-South transport corridor. When India has to connect to Russia, then Iran, Caspian Sea and countries around Caspian Sea are also very important. India wants to get oil from Turkmenistan, Tajikistan and other regions, for which we are planning for Tapi pipeline, and if this has to be successful, Pakistan has to accept. Now as Pakistan is not accepting, India can bring this oil reserves to Iran, and from there we can actually get it to India. In the same way, India is planning to bypass Pakistan to get oil from other regions as well, where we say that from the Arabian Peninsula there is plan to go for underwater pipeline. So Modi in his recent visit has actually said that if we can connect Iran to this underwater pipeline, then we will actually observe that the oil can be brought through underwater pipeline to India without dependency on Pakistan. Some facts with respect to Chabahar port is also given. From strategic point of view, it is very important for us to note that Gwadar port, which is given here, is actually closer to Chabbar port. Gwadar port is in the hands of China, and Gwadar port to Chinese province Kashgar, they are planning to go for China-Pakistan economic corridor. And this particular project, that is Chabbar port, was seen as a threat by Chinese, that it is planning to counter the Chinese-Pakistan economic corridor. But India has said that this is only to improve connectivity with Afghanistan, Central Asia and other countries. But still, as India has proposed the North-South Transport Corridor, which helps to connect Russia, Central Asia, Iran and other countries with India through Chabbar port, sometimes it's true that this port may act to counter Gwadar port as well. Facts regarding this and an explanation is given in the notes. You can just go through this once. There was Swachh Sarvekshan 2017, which aimed at sanitation survey in the country to verify whether the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is being successful or not. It was done in almost all the districts of the country, and it is believed that Kerala and Haryana tops the sanitation survey. Other states have also performed very well, but comparably Kerala and Haryana have done better. There are other surveys and reports about this, nothing much to worry about, but as it is important for us to look at some of the social factors which will be benefited because of this, and in your essay whenever you want to talk, you can use this particular quote. Supreme Court has actually asked the central government to implement National Food Security Act properly. According to the National Food Security Act, which was passed by UPA government, it said that to almost around 75% of rural people and 50% of urban people, food crops will be given at a subsidized rate, that is at rupees 3, rupees 2 and rupees 1. So when we are talking about the cereal crops to be given at this particular cost, poor implementation has not been helpful in helping or in implementing these things carefully. Even the Congress ruled states of Karnataka has not performed very well when it comes to implementation of this. 9 states have not been responded properly, and they have responded poorly to implementation by saying that there is lack of resources. The next important issue is actually with respect to connectivity with Afghanistan again. In this booklet, we have seen twice with respect to connectivity with Afghanistan. One, here I'm talking about air connectivity. Another one, I talked about the sea connectivity through Chabbar port, right? I explained you with respect to Chabbar port. Now, India recently opened an air corridor independent of Pakistan just to ensure that connectivity between Afghanistan and India improves, so that the products from Afghanistan can be brought to India, and from India it can be sold to different states in India, and also if possible we can sell it to different countries as well. As I told you, the major aim of all these is to ensure that Afghanistan is not dependent on Pakistan. Unfortunately, we do not have enough ships which move between Afghanistan and India. Enough cargo air carriers are not present between Afghanistan and India. When you don't have much air cargo, then the goods, especially the fruits, vegetables and other things which India wants to import from Afghanistan, it will be very difficult to bring, as this requires more space. Ships are usually used, but as we are going for air connectivity, more cargo aircrafts are required. And apart from this, even when it comes to India, because of the bureaucratic delays, rules and regulations, it is very difficult for these crops to be passed through the customs. So India's red tapeism is affecting the goods which are coming from Afghanistan, and this is creating lot of trouble to the farmers of Afghanistan who are dependent on India. So here India should plan to increase the air cargo, at the same time reduce the delays, so that the farmers of Afghanistan will be benefited. And if these regulations can be imposed across India, then obviously it will be beneficial to our farmers as well. The government in economic survey was actually talking about UBI, Universal Basic Income, where irrespective of your income, some supplementary money should be given to every individual. They were talking about universality. We don't know when they say universality, it is for all citizens of the country, or is it only for those people who are poor within the country. Second important thing they were actually talking was with respect to cash transfers. Should it be through some other services that should be given to these people, or should India aim at giving cash transfers? When we talk about giving services, there is lot of loopholes present and there may not be proper methods that can be used by the government to provide PDS. All this have failed in implementation and lot of corruption will be there as middlemen increases. So when they talk about conditional cash transfers, and as majority of the households are now under Jan Dhan Yojana, so it is easy for the government to give cash to these people, and income shall help these people to come out of poverty levels, and this may ensure that India will be free of the present poverty levels. Again, if the poverty definition changes, then it may be different. The clear argument about this is already given in economic survey and we have already dealt. For prelims next year, least possibility you get a question on this, but for those people who are preparing for mains this year, please ensure that you're going through UBI once. The next important issue is actually with ISRO's plan to launch a satellite which is dedicated to observe Earth. Here they are planning to use hyperspectral imaging, where in a chip, right, all the spectrum will be available and pictures of the Earth will be taken using every range in the spectrum. When they use every range in the spectrum, every range will give specific pictures, and that will actually help us to understand underwater, in ground, atmosphere, everything, all these reserves present, issues associated with it. To study Earth in total, a separate satellite is being planned. So here they are actually talking about this. Once it becomes successful, it is very, very important for your prelims and also this year mains to look into this issue. Next, we have given the highlights of new economic survey, but we'll be making a separate video where we'll try to show what are the important highlights of the recent economic survey released by the government. But the notes which students keep on asking whenever we make the survey, they ask, so please give us the notes. So we are providing the notes here, but as I have already promised you, we will be doing a separate lecture on this. So guys, at last you have ethics based questions. Your weekly magazines are being evaluated, so you'll be getting it soon. So there is no need to worry about. And for those students whom we have promised extension, we'll be giving those extension as well. Thank you guys. Thanks for watching.